Welcome back, fellow Nerf herders, to our Star Wars Plus review of The Bad Batch, titled
I have a Bad Batch feeling about this.
And today we bring you a two-parter. Believe it or not, it actually might be a prequel to Rebels, and they're titled
Devil's Deal and Rescue on Ryloth.
Interestingly enough, we get the first episode that doesn't actually focus on the Bad Batch. If anything, it focuses on Ryloth, in particular, Hera from Rebels. Rather surprised
and
with
Chopper.
This one.
Don't forget Chopper.
Who could forget Chopper? It's funny, I haven't watched Rebels, or at least I've watched only a handful, but I didn't realize the infamy of Chopper. And it's funny watching people online react to this, because their biggest takeaway from this is, oh my god, Chopper is back! He who must reign has returned! Apparently he's a genocidal robot, and I had no knowledge of this. So.
I don't know about genocidal, but definitely he has anger issues.
Yeah.
He's got some anger issues.
Oh yeah. We don't see much of it in this, but we see I guess a little hint of it. Already from these two episodes alone, I like Chopper. I especially love his little extra arms on his head and just flails around. So we'll start off with the first episode, Devil's Deal, and this entirely focuses on the Empire pretty much straight up, I'll just call it invading Ryloth. They don't put it that way.
They're occupying Ryloth.
Yeah, they're occupying Ryloth. But we all know what this is. Poor Ryloth has been suffering so much during the Clone Wars. It's like every time we've watched an episode with them, there's always some major battle going on or some injustice being committed upon them. And you would think that once the war was over with, that things would lighten up a bit, but nope. If anything, they seem to get much worse. Especially because their own senator seems real intent on selling them out. Which shouldn't be a surprise given what a greedy, corrupt, fat fuck he is.
So the weather doesn't like that.
Yeah, just a heads up, we're filming this during a rainstorm, so if you hear thunder, that's why. So apologies. Then again, it's no different from the cars you hear in the background whenever we try to do this. So yeah, the Empire is now occupying Ryloth, saying that it's a mutual thing, and even though it was promised that the clones would leave once the war was over, they're now occupying, even more so. They even get Chen Syndulla to actually, vouch on behalf of them, saying that, oh, we've fought for so long, and I know they said they would leave, but I think this is for the better, for the sake of keeping peace. And I can kind of see where he's coming from, because as we said, Ryloth has suffered a lot during the Clone Wars. True, the occupation is not a good thing, especially because they're asking them to get rid of their weapons in order to, live peacefully with them. But at the same time, it's the fucking Empire. We know what's going down. We know what it is they ultimately plan to do. And yeah, it's I can understand him going that route, but at the same time, it's dude, come on, you know what's going down. Even his wife knows what's going down.
Speaking of, we are introduced to his wife, Hera's mother, Elena Syndulla, which, if you've watched Rebels, you kind of know her fate. And she obviously does not make it to Rebels, but it's not like she's forgotten. But yeah, it's nice that we actually get to know her a little bit, get to see her and Cham interacting, get to see, the whole family interacting together.
Yeah, I think we even meet Hera's uncle, too. It's his uncle, right? Or is that just a friend of her father's?
That's Cham's first lieutenant.
Right.
Yeah.
He's the more battle-minded of the two, in that he knows what's up and he's not going to tolerate it. And he keeps trying to convince Cham that they shouldn't believe the Empire when they're saying that, oh, this is just a peaceful occupation. He wants to actually, get the weapons back, or at least get new ones and store them up in case they need them. And that kind of what leads to the whole involvement of the Batch with this. He sneaks off along with Hera to this moon, I guess, outside of the planet, and they meet up with the Batch and pretty much do a weapon exchange. While they're doing that, Hera actually meets Omega, and they become best friends. Yeah, Omega shows her around the ship, explains how everything works and all that, explains their whole situation, shows their living quarters, which she's really proud of, and I thought it was cute. Because it's oh yeah, normally it's like a weapons storage thing, but it's my room and it's the best thing ever. And I'm aww.
Makes sense. It's the only thing she has claim to at all.
Yeah.
So.
I thought that was so cute. It's like a little kid, showing like, see, this is my bike and it's mine. So yeah, like the interaction is surprisingly brief. Like probably lasts like 5 minutes at most.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hera and her father's lieutenant get the weapons, but on the way back, they unfortunately get shot down by Crosshairs. He had an inkling this whole time as to what they planned to do. And in fact, the Empire already was like sort of counting on Chem's old group to like react to all this, kind of like a whole big setup. They managed to shoot them down. They accuse Hera of being an insurgent and arrest her along with the other two. And of course, word gets back to Chem, and of course, he's not gonna take this line down. So him and his whole crew, they take down the carrier that Hera's on, because they know that they're not going to get a fair trial. They know that they're probably going to try to execute her or something, or make an example of her, and that's not going to fly. They managed to stop the ship, and Cham was like this close to like killing the senator, which I wouldn't have blamed him in the least for doing so, because dear God, I thought that guy was bad the few times we saw him in Clone Wars, but like in this case, he's advocating the arrest and execution of a child.
Not only that, it's like he knows that Cham's like the only thing that's keeping Ryloth in line. He's the inspiration that's keeping them receptive to the Empire's occupation. And
they sure as hell aren't listening to him, and I don't blame him.
And yet he's so determined, despite the fact that he knows he really needs Cham to be on his side, he's still gung-ho about having him out of the way.
Yeah, it's like, dude, what are you doing? He's like your best tool right now, and like, because your people hate you. Don't fool yourself in thinking that you're going to get them to listen to you. But he finally gets his comeuppance because, as we said, the Empire had already anticipated all this happening and set up a plan. So when Cham ultimately decides against killing the senator, Crosshairs does it for him. And the way that it's set up, it looks like Cham is the one that attempted to kill him. Because the thing is, like, we know he's dead. He got shot in the friggin' head. As we learned in the next episode, the Empire doesn't outright tell the citizens that. They just say that, there was an assassination attempt and he's in the midst of recovering. It's like, dude, we know he's dead. Like, I know we've seen Star Wars characters survive some pretty intense shit that should have killed them instantly, but I don't think that guy's gonna survive.
A bullet to the head? No.
And I'm gonna say, I kind of cheered when that happened. I'm like, yes, that's what you get, you fat corrupt fuck. Oh my God. Like, again, I know we haven't, like, seen much of him. The few times we did, he didn't say much, but looking at him, he just made me mad. Because it's like, you look at all the people on his planet. They're, like, starving. They're in a war-driven area. They're suffering immensely. And then there's this bastard just, hanging out in the Senate, eating, like, these big feasts. I mean, look at the friggin' guy. And even though, like, he claims to represent Ryloth, it's like, dude, you don't give a shit about your people. You don't give a shit about your planet. As long as your interests are served, what do you care? I mean, we already know he supports the Emperor.
Oh yeah, we've seen him in the Emperor's pocket. He has no qualms with the Emperor.
Oh, one thing I learned about him from my research that I did, you notice how he's like the only Twi'lek that has like 4 like head tails as opposed to like 2?
I did not notice that.
Yeah, because he has like the 2 that go up front, but then he has 2 that hang out the back. Apparently the reason for that is because he is such a fat fuck. He's so fucking enormous, that he basically ran out of fat for, like, the chins that he has, and those are actually fat hanging out the back of his neck. You know how, like, some people are, like, so fat they actually have, like, neck fat? Yeah, that's what it is for him. And I'm just like, wow, dude, you take it to the next level. He ain't a baby!
But he is voiced by Phil Lamar, so I'll give him a reprieve on that.
Like, dude, you are not worthy of being voiced by Phil Lamar. Come on. So yeah, Hera's parents are arrested along with the rest of the insurgents. Hera escapes with Chopper, and the only real recourse she has at this point is to summon the Bad Batch. Because it turned out while she was hanging out with Omega, Omega gave her their frequency, to call in case, bad stuff went
Emergency.
down. Yeah, because they could tell, based on their brief interaction, the fact that, they were buying weapons and stuff, Omega knew that, they were in the midst of being in trouble. So, precaution, she did that, which thank God she did. The Batch, unfortunately, are kind of apprehensive about going back, though, because A, this wasn't their original job, and B, they're going back to an Empire-settled planet. This is basically a repeat of what happened in the previous episode. Except in this case, it's even more dire because Crosshairs is on the planet. So we know they definitely want to steer clear of that. They at least humor them, and, they let Hera know, it's like, okay, we'll assess the situation, but no promises. And, of course, they see what's going on, they see Crosshairs, and they make the determination that it's just way too big a risk for them to take. Again, I don't blame them for that, because really they stand so much more to lose by helping.
But there's a probe droid in the vicinity that happens to catch them, and so they're kind of screwed into it.
I love that Hunter takes it out with a knife. It's like, you're the only clone trooper I know that would take out a probe droid with a freaking knife. But it worked, so that was good. But yeah, ultimately Omega convinces them to help. She's like, you guys are soldiers. I thought this was your job. And she makes a good point. It's like, yeah, they're mercenaries now, but they still were bred to be soldiers. They were bred to help people, especially those loyal to the Republic, which Ryloth was. And I'm kind of glad that she convinced them to help, because it's like, guys, I get it, but at the same time, it's like, these people really do need your help here, come on. So yeah, they hatched this whole plan in order to, disable cannons and then break into the prison to get the parents and the rest of the rebels out. And I do like we see Chopper sort of, go undercover here as he, infiltrates, the whole area. I just realized how easy it is for, a droid to do that. Yeah. Really, who's gonna notice? It's the only time they don't notice is when, he zaps that one droid. It's like a smoking,
Well, that's because he was making so much noise when, he's looking up the information there,
True.
So...
I didn't even know how to look up the information. I'm like, wait a minute, they sent in a droid and he doesn't even know how to hack the information? That makes sense.
Like I said, a part of Chopper's anger issues stem from the fact that he seems to be, pushed into these situations where he has no idea what the fuck he's doing, and he loses it.
No wonder. I don't blame him. Yeah, but thankfully Omega and Hera are able to hijack a ship, and they're able to take out the cannons, which allows the rest to go in and rescue the prisoners. And during that time, there's actually another character of interest that comes up. Another clone trooper.
Spiky hair, Scarface guy.
Yeah, I believe they called him Hauser.
I think something, yeah.
And I can tell right off the bat he's definitely different from the rest of the clones because, A, he has a slightly different color scheme than them. He has, blue on his armor as opposed to everyone who's just white. He also has, that distinct... I heard people call it a fuckboy hairstyle.
Well, I think he's a clone commander or something like that.
Probably.
Yeah.
He's allowed to be, a little different than everyone else.
He's Commander Cody or, whoever.
But he, actually questioning the motive behind all of, their actions and stuff. Because he's like, wait, I thought we were supposed to protect these people. Why are we arresting them? And it goes on and on throughout the episode, and, he ultimately does obey, but then it gets to a point where he's like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. Part of me is, curious as to how that happened exactly, because you think once Order 66 went down, they all go into, extreme loyal clone mode. I know not as loyal as Crosshairs is, but... at least, they wouldn't be questioning this. I mean, up until this point, aside from the Batch, we haven't really had any other clones that didn't already have their inhibitor chips removed actually question the whole motives of the Empire.
Well, keep in mind, Order 66 was just to eliminate the Jedi. It wasn't really be, completely complacent to the Empire or whatever, obviously, because the Empire doesn't even exist yet. These clones, they've worked. They've fought alongside the Twi'leks, and a number of them. So right now it's they only think that the Jedi are the enemy. They don't think that anybody else is.
Alright, I guess I can accept that then. But yeah, it was surprising. Not only did he inform the group before they escaped that, hey, don't go out this way, it's a trap, he actually, sacrifices himself in the process. And I don't mean, totally sacrifice. I was really convinced they were going to, shoot him on sight, especially once he was outright questioning the Empire. But it turns out they just arrested him. But yeah, he actually gives them time to, like, make their escape. So him and his whole group, the ones that actually do side with him about not wanting to arrest the Twi'leks after fighting with him, I was honestly surprised that almost everybody survived this, to be quite honest.
I was, yeah.
Because, like, I was pretty certain, one of Hera's parents, or especially the clone trooper, would indeed be, like, killed during this escape. But no, everybody either gets away or is just merely arrested. And yeah, of course, Crosshairs takes this whole escape personally because the head Empire guy in charge wouldn't allow him to actually seek out the batch initially because he, like many others, underestimated the troop and, assumed that the rest of the clone troopers could, like, handle him. But nope. And then he realizes the error of his ways, and he actually gives Crosshairs permission to hunt them personally. And that's what we end off with. Thankfully, Hera and her parents are able to escape, and I assume they're going to meet up with all the other characters we've met so far, in terms of those who are trying to, like, build the rebellion and everything. Because really, where else are they going to go at this point? I feel like either at the end of this season or in the following season, they're going to meet up with all the people they rescued, and it's going to be the start of the new rebellion or something like that.
Well, that kind of happens in Rebels. There's, like, a lot of separation. It's not really until Rebels that they get people, working in cooperation to, start to form the rebellion.
Well, either or, Hera and her parents are now safe. They're off Ryloth, and thankfully the rest of the crew managed to make it out safe as well. It's pretty much a happy ending, or as happy an ending as you can get in the case of the Star Wars series. But now we know that Crosshairs is actively hunting them now. I mean, I kind of thought he already was, but the way they made it seem in the last 2 episodes is more that, they stick him where he's needed. Mm-hmm. And they kind of keep him there.
And if the Bad Batch happens to be in the area,
yeah,
then he's got his orders.
But in this case, like, he is now personally hunting them. It is both his own personal quest as well as the will of the Empire. Now it's time to get really worried. Because at this moment they now have 2 active hunters on their tail, Crosshairs and Cad Bane. And I gotta say, if those 2 clash, that's going to be, like, one of the greatest fights in, like, Star Wars history. I am really interested to see how that plays out, because both of them have plot armor, and I'm interested to see whose plot armor is thicker. Like, who will make this out alive? I mean, they theoretically could both make it out alive, but I'm interested to see if, like, who is able to get one over on the other.
I mean, it only, stands to reason only if the bounty is affected by this hunt.
I mean, his goal is to capture Omega and bring her back to Kamino, and that's not the will of the Emperor, that's just the Kaminoans' personal wish. It's not like it'd be a conflict for Cad to, like, fight against Crosshairs in order to get his bounty.
Yeah, but then again, how Crosshairs doesn't really have a off switch in terms of his vengeance, and he's willing to kill Omega over it, so you never know. And then, of course, there's Fennec Shand.
Well, she's not an active threat right now. Like, at least not right now. Because we know that, her hunt was called off, because she's back with a batch, and that's, for the moment, good enough for who paid her off. So I don't really equate her into this, but
there's always a chance that she's thrown into the mix further.
It's possible, especially if Kamino gets wind that Crosshairs is actively trying to hunt her against their wishes. Mm-hmm. So it may very well be like a 3-way shootout between them, which admittedly would be cool. One thing I did want to note that I thought was rather interesting and kind of cute too, this is the first time we've seen Omega actually reference to the Batch as her brothers. Because it wasn't made apparent until, like, I would say a few episodes ago that when you really think about it, yeah, technically she and the Batch are siblings, because, she's descended from Jango, so, like, the rest of the clone troopers, she's their sister. So it makes a little more sense now. I mean, it kind of puts an end to the whole Dad Batch title that we had going for him. But now that you can look at him
as the Big Brother Batch.
Yeah, the Big Brother Batch, which kind of makes it even cuter when you think about it. I imagine someone come up to me and be like, "How did you get so tough?" And she's like, "Oh, I have brothers. And they need protecting." So yeah, this was an interesting detractor from, like, the main storyline, because I really had been wondering the Batch was really going to do at this point, because like I said, a lot of the other lingering factors had had been eliminated by this point. The only thing now was that they had the one bounty hunter after them, as well as crosshairs if they ever happen to cross the Empire. Now he's, firmly, on their tail. So I guess that adds in the danger now. Because otherwise, I feel like this would have just been them doing mercenary jobs and, getting drawn into, galactic conflict wherever it happened to appear. I mean, we kind of knew that would happen regardless, given how the outreach of things and the swiftness of the Empire changing everything. So I don't think we have that many episodes left. Or at least we have 2 episodes left that are titled, and I think the rest haven't been dropped yet, because we only were given titles for the month of July, not August. Right now, we only know of the 2 episodes. What were they?
That was Infected and War Mantle.
Yeah, I don't think that's the end, because it was supposed to be 16 episodes, right? For the first season. So I assume probably after next week is when when the rest of the episodes are going to drop, assuming there are more episodes. I mean, I would like to see them go up to 16 just to make it a nice, rounded first season. But if they ended in 2 weeks, I won't be complaining too much. Because like I said, they've pretty much gone as far as they can at this point, and unless something drastic happens, there's really not much more they can do, aside from, wait for the second season to come by. Hopefully this won't be like friggin' Loki, and they end on a fucking agonizing cliffhanger. Oh, God. We'll share our thoughts on that in that video. Trust me, you watch it, you'll know. But yeah, until next time, where we watch the Big Brother Little Sister batch, I'm Kat McBerry.
I'm Doug McBerry.
And don't piss off Chopper, guys.